Indiana coach Curt Cignetti takes a shot at the Southeastern Conference, and he's half right. We'll explain on today's Overtime with Matt Moscona. I am Matt Moscona. For the last 15 years, I've hosted After Further Review on ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge, syndicated throughout the state of Louisiana. Also the host of Locked on LSU and the publisher at LouisianaSports.net. Here, we talk about all things college football, something that is deeply a passion of mine, and I'm guessing yours, by the fact that you found this channel. So Curt Cignetti, the Indiana Big Ten coach, who prior to Indiana was at James Madison, he of Google Me fame, or infamy, however you want to look at it. 1 year after taking Indiana to an 11-1 record and the college football playoff was at Big Ten Media Day. And my colleague, Spencer McLaughlin of Locked on College Football, asked Curt Cignetti a question about a recent scheduling decision that the Hoosiers made. If you missed this, Indiana recently bought themselves out of a home-and-home with Virginia. And instead of playing a home-and-home against Virginia, they'll be playing a couple of directional schools that you've never heard of that are wholly irrelevant. Cignetti was asked by Spencer McLaughlin, as you'll hear in this soundbite, why they made the decision to buy themselves out of those games against Virginia, instead opting to play directional schools at home. This is a long soundbite, but I'm going to delve into it. You'll hear the shot at the SEC, but on the back end of this cut, he's going to say the part that I actually agree with. So listen to Curt Cignetti. We'll come back on the backside and react to it.
Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On Podcast Network. Coach, you guys recently announced that you canceled a future home-and-home series with Virginia. Can you talk about what went into that decision and why you think that's in the best interest for your program and the fans?
Yeah, that was a scheduling philosophy that began before I was hired, but I did sign off on it upon being hired before our first season, okay? And look, here's the bottom line, okay? We picked up an extra home game, and we play 9 conference games. The 2 best conferences in college football, any football guy that's objective will tell you, is the Big Ten and the SEC, all right? 12 of the 16 SEC teams play 3 G5 or an FCS game. 12 of those teams play 36 games, 29 G5 games, and 7 FCS games, and 1 less conference game, all right? So we figured we'd just adopt SEC scheduling philosophy. Some people don't like it. I'm more focused in on those 9 conference games. Not only do we want to play 9 conference games, okay, and have the 4-4 championship, the playoff format, okay, we want to have play-in games to decide who plays in those playoffs. Championship weekend, let's play 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. You want to decide that on the field and make sure everybody's strength of schedule is what it needs to be? Let's make everybody play 9 conference games, and on championship weekend, 3 will play 6, 4 will play 5. And there's still room for another at-large in that format. And why shouldn't the Big Ten have 4 AQs? Because Ohio State actually finished 4th in the conference at the end of the season. Indiana and Penn State were tied for 2nd. They won the tiebreaker. Ohio State won the national championship. Okay? Put the best teams in the playoff, give the best leagues the AQs, but make them earn it with play-in games. And we wouldn't be opposed to Big Ten SEC regular season games every year. We need to standardize the schedule across the board if we want to have objective criteria for who should be in the playoffs and who shouldn't, and we need to take the decision-making off the committee to some degree.
Okay, let's get into what old Curt had to say. So, Curt Cignetti is not wrong about the playoff component of this. I agree with it. I love the idea of play-in games. Understand sort of what he's lobbying for there. He's saying, and the Big Ten has argued that the Big Ten and the SEC should each get 4 AQs, automatic qualifiers. What he's saying is the number 1 and number 2 team in the league should automatically be in. 3 should play 6. 4 should play 5. The winner of their head-to-head gets in the playoff. So now 6 teams, the top 6 from the SEC, the top 6 from the Big Ten, all have a chance to play their way into the playoff. That's pretty good. I like that a lot. I like having more access. There's an argument to be made about, well, you play an 8 or maybe 9 game league schedule. Shouldn't that project your order of finish and determine who makes the playoff? And I wouldn't disagree with that, but that order of finish would also determine who gets a home game in your play-in. So again, that first weekend in December, when you would typically have the SEC championship game, 1 and 2 would be off, or they play the championship game. Then 3 would play 6, 4 would play 5, and so you determine the 4 AQs from the SEC and the Big Ten. So I like that. I like that a lot. Everyone who argued a year ago about Alabama and South Carolina or Ole Miss, all of those teams would have had an opportunity at the beginning of December to play their way into the field. Again, I like this. I like very much the opportunity to settle it on the field and not put that arbitrary decision-making in the hands of the college football playoff selection committee. So I like that. The problem that I have is that Curt Cignetti is the wrong messenger. Like, this is going to offend some people, but I don't care. Like, if you have a really fat friend and your fat friend is preaching to you about needing to lose weight, that, like, the message may be right. Type 2 diabetes, heart health, all that stuff. That the message is right. The messenger is wrong. It's like, Kat, look in the mirror. I love you. You're my friend, but you're not the person that needs to be preaching this to me. Don't use weight. Use finances as an example. Like, your CPA should be the one talking to you. Your financial planner should be talking to you about fiscal responsibility, not your brother-in-law who's got 150 grand in debt. Like, it's all about the messenger. Don't be offended by any of this. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm just illustrating Curt Cignetti is not the one that needs to be telling us how we need to look at things moving forward. So the shot he's taking at the SEC is completely misplaced. What Curt Cignetti said in canceling the games against the home and home against Virginia, what they're doing is replacing those games with Kennesaw State and Eastern Illinois. And herein lies the issue, because Indiana is the poster child of what's wrong with the College Football Playoff Selection Committee determining who plays in the playoff. Because a year ago, Indiana went 11-1 and got in the playoff. And we all look and go, well, 11-1. They're in the Big Ten. They're in a power league. They went 11-1. They deserve to get in. Let me take it a step further if I could. Indiana did go 11-1 in the regular season. Their 11 wins: FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, who, by the way, was 500, and Purdue. Those 11 wins, the total number of ranked opponents among those 11 wins, the same number of college football games that I played. A big fat 0. Indiana didn't play a single ranked team among their 11 wins. They played one ranked team in the regular season. It was Ohio State in Columbus at the Horseshoe. Game day was there, big noon kickoff, all the sort of stuff. And they lost 38-15. They scored late, by the way, to make it even look more respectable than it was. They lost by 4 scores against the one ranked opponent they played, but they were 11-1. So the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, the group of self-important goofballs, the doofuses in the hotel ballroom in suburban Dallas, determining things like game control and Indiana's strength of schedule, put them in the playoff. What happens? Indiana plays at Notre Dame, number 8 Notre Dame, number 5 Notre Dame, And they lost by double digits again, 27-17, a game that wasn't even as close as the final score would indicate. It was never, ever in doubt. Indiana scored late to make it even as close as it was. The bottom line is Curt Cignetti, his Indiana team made the playoff. They played two ranked teams. They lost by double digits both times. They had no business being in the playoff. And if you actually had a structure where you could have had the sort of play-in that he described, Indiana would have lost to a better team in the Big Ten because Indiana wasn't very good to begin with. They were an okay version of a mid-major program. Curt Cignetti brought a bunch of dudes over from James Madison, and they gelled together, and good for them. But as soon as they played anybody that was a legitimate contender, they got their doors blown off. So I don't need Curt Cignetti preaching to me about the SEC scheduling model, which, by the way, if you look at the SEC scheduling model, yes, the SEC plays 8. But the SEC plays 8 and a mandated Power 5 non-conference opponent, which brings it to 9. The Big Ten plays 9 league games, but does not have a Power 5 mandate in the non-conference. So if you look at Indiana, for example, their non-conference this year is Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Forgive me, Curt Cignetti, but I don't need you preaching to me about scheduling when you're playing Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State in the non-conference. You are no better than anyone you're talking about. And by the way, when you look at your bogus Big Ten schedule, I'm very curious to see how it works this year for Indiana going at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State. By the way, you catch a breather this year. You don't have Michigan or Ohio State on your schedule, but still, you're probably no better than 9-3 against your bogus schedule that you're facing. Again, I agree with Curt Cignetti on an expanded playoff. I don't mind the idea of play-in games that allow more access for teams. I'm very much in favor. We talked about it on a previous video, if you missed it, with Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri talking about a 30-team college football playoff. I'm not opposed to that. I want an expanded playoff. I want more access. I want us determining it on the field and not in a hotel ballroom in suburban Dallas with a bunch of self-important dopes trying to determine who actually has granting the right for teams to play into a college football playoff. I want it determined on the field. I just don't need Curt Cignetti standing at a pulpit telling me or you or any of us how college football should be run, because Indiana is the personification of a team that has looked at football, a program that's looked at football as a consolation prize. Indiana cares far more about basketball than they do about college football. If Curt Cignetti stinks and Indiana goes 5-7, they don't care. They're just worried about what's going to happen at Assembly Hall during basketball season. If Curt Cignetti and Indiana are good in football, that's a bonus. The school I cover, LSU, it's the inverse. It's a mandate that LSU football be good. If they're not, people are getting fired. If LSU basketball is good, awesome. That's a plus. If they're not, people just look forward to spring football and baseball. So, look, I want an expanded college football playoff. I want more access. I just don't need Curt Cignetti preaching to me. I don't need my 400-pound friend telling me that I need to lay off the carbs. That's Curt Cignetti in this situation. And for that, Curt Cignetti can kick rocks. And I will very much look forward to his bogus Indiana Hoosiers losing 3-4 games this year, missing the college football playoff because he's a chump. He weaseled out of games against Virginia. Like, it's not like you had a home and home with Clemson. It's not like you scheduled a home and home with Bama. It was Virginia. And you can't play Virginia, so you play Eastern Illinois and Kennesaw State. Spare me, you dork. Take your stupid spectacles, throw them on the ground. Let me kick you in the face and kick dirt in your eyes and never talk to me again, Curt Cignetti, you friggin' dork. Get someone else to do your bidding because you ain't the guy who should be sending any of us this message. Here's hoping college football is better for it, but it won't be because of Curt Cignetti. All right, that'll do it for us here. Do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop your comments, let us know if there's something you'd like to discuss here on Overtime with Matt Moscona.